Hello, students. Hi. Good evening. Good afternoon or good evening. How are you? Today is a nice Saturday. Okay, very hot Saturday also. Actually, it's very hot day. Okay, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're able to hear me. Okay, so welcome to another class. Okay, Minion, good evening. Okay, good evening. Maybe late afternoon. Okay, I hope that you can hear me. Can you feedback whether you can hear me loud and clear? Okay, today's lesson will be a short one because I just want to combine two subtopics, 10.2 and 10.3. Okay, and then I'm finished with chapter 10. So we managed to cover chapter 10 in about 2 weeks, okay, which is a good thing because we want to go into chapter 11. All right, okay, so today's lesson is not difficult. All right, it's something that you have already learned before, just that you need a little bit of detail. Okay, Minion, can you hear me well? Yes, very clear. Okay, good. What about the visual? Is your my video blur and all that? Are you able to see me? Good evening. Okay, Jen Shan, hello, Jen Shan, Min, Kirsten, good evening. Is the visual also clear? Can you see me well? Because sometimes you can't see the notes and it's blur. Okay, is it okay? Right, if it's okay, then I can continue with the lesson. I will share screen now. I hope you can see this. Let me have a look at this. Okay, so we're going to go to the visual is lagging. Okay, audio is loud and clear. All right, okay, good. Audio is loud and clear, so I think it's important for you to hear, right? Let's look at your textbook now. But I will not rely 100% on your textbook because I find information is a bit lacking. So I will include a little bit of additional material. A bit blur. All right, okay. I can't be, I'm so sorry because I don't have Unify and my line is actually a little bit not so good, right? But I just hope you can rely on your audio. Okay, now let's look at this. 10.2, look at these three terms. When you talk about environmental sustainability, we need to make sure that we do not harm the environment. Okay, that is the main idea. Sustainability means it's able to continue for a long time. It's able to continue and you're able to get the resources from the earth, but at the same time, you do not want to destroy your earth. So here we must make sure that we can keep on using the resources, but we must make sure you do not finish it. Okay, so we have three terms here. So we have preservation. So the way we pronounce it is called preservation, conservation, and restoration. Okay, now the slides here. Okay, slides clear. Maybe it also depends on the line of your viewers. Okay, so preservation, conservation, restoration. Now, when you write conservation, be careful. Sometimes you end up writing the other spelling. Okay, sometimes I know when I type it accidentally. So sometimes I type it becomes conversation. See what happens when you change the S and the V around. You will have conversation. Okay, let me write it out. You see, you change this into V, and then you put this to get a conversation, which is totally wrong. Okay, so be careful. It's conservation. So I end up having sometimes when I type too fast, okay, when I absent-mindedly when I write. So sometimes I also make the mistake. So be careful. Conservation is you want to conserve. Conserve means you want to make it, you do not want to make it become worse. You want to make it better, all right? You want to preserve it in a way it is. Conversation means it's perbualan. It's like talking, dialogue between two persons. Conservation. Okay, conversation, sorry. So be careful, right? It's conservation, not conversation. Okay, don't write the wrong thing. Now, so learn these three terms: preservation, conservation, and restoration. Now, what is the difference between all these three? So you have to have a clear idea what these three means. Okay, they have slightly different meaning. Okay, now, so far, okay, the slide is clear, right? Okay, now let's see. If you're according to your textbook, the so that remain in its natural condition. That means you want to preserve it. You do not want it to go bad. Okay, when you talk about food preservation, you put all this preservation, these additives or these chemicals so that the food doesn't go bad. So same thing when you want to preserve the environment, you want to make sure you want to do things to it so that the environment does not become worse. Okay, that's the meaning of preservation. Now look at the second one, conservation. Conservation, according to the textbook, it says the keyword here, I just underline, I just circle the keyword, it's called restore. Now, restore means is make it go back to normal. Means it's, or maybe it's already on the way of becoming worse. It's already becoming bad, all right? So you want to restore it. You want to change it back into better. You want to bring it back to normal. Okay, that is the keyword here, according to the textbook. But I find the difference is not very clear in your textbook. So after I explain my own. Now the third one, restoration. You see, restoration is also, you see the keyword is also the same thing. Restoring. Restoring means you bring it. Then teacher, what is the difference between conservation and restoration? Because you see the keyword here is restore. Restore means you bring it back to normal. You bring it back to the original condition. You see, renewing or restoring. So I've Googled a little bit. I found that it's a slight difference. So I want to explain to you what is the difference between conservation and restoration. Okay, now, so I will revert to my notes here. Okay, everything okay, yeah? Let me just have a look at I just have to pull a little bit, then I can see. Okay, Christina, that's just clear, that's it. Right, now, let's look at this three. Preservation, conservation, restoration. So I put in different colors so you understand there are three different concepts. Okay, first one, preservation of ecosystem. Now in BM, the term is called pemeliharaan. It's the same meaning as preservation. So if you want to translate into BM, it's called pemeliharaan alam semula jadi. Now pemeliharaan means you want to make sure it doesn't go bad. You want to make sure it remains the way it is. Okay, so the keyword here is to protect. So the keyword here is protect. Okay, protect the components of an ecosystem so it will remain in its natural condition. So that is how you remember it. Okay, let me switch off. It's making noise. My phone. All right, okay. So remain in its natural condition. This is the keyword. To protect the environment, protect the ecosystem so that it will remain in its natural condition. Okay, how do you do it? How do you make sure your hutan, your forest doesn't become worse? How do you make sure your ocean doesn't become worse? Okay, how do you do that? Now, one of the ways is, these are the steps. Okay, number one, I see this word gazette. Okay, what's the meaning of gazette? Okay, gazette is actually a verb, 动词, to do something, to gazette. To gazette is actually in BM called wartakan. Okay, let's look at the first one first. Gazette National Park, such as Taman Negara in Pahang and Taman Negara Kinabalu in Sabah. Gazette is to announce. Okay, what's the meaning of gazette? Gazette is to announce or to publish. Okay, in Hua you say 公布. That means you tell everybody, tell the whole nation, tell the whole, it's like you put in the perlembagaan, you put it in the law. You say that this Taman Negara is gazetted as a national, a national park. What it means by a national park is you're not supposed to go there and you're not supposed to go and kill the animals there. You cannot even cut down trees there. So it's like considered a protected forest. Okay, to gazette is to announce. So in BM is wartakan. That means you put it in some kind of a writing that, and everybody, it's like a law, some kind of a perlembag. Okay, you put it into, it means you announce it, right? It is something that you cannot break. That is announced that this this forest is already now gazetted as a national heritage site or national treasure. So you cannot go in and simply cut the trees as you want or kill the animals, go and do your hunting and so on. Okay, so to gazette is to announce that you have this national park such as Taman Negara and of course in Pahang and also Taman Negara Kinabalu in Sabah. Okay, so you also have forest reserve. Besides national park, you have forest reserve like Hutan Simpan Belum. Belum is an area in North Perak. Okay, sebelah utara Perak. Hutan Simpan Larut Matang in Perak. So these are forest reserves that you cannot go in and do anything you want. You cannot clear the forest. You cannot go in and hunt the animals. Okay, so it's called Gazette it as a forest reserve or national park. So in that way, nobody can go in and do anything that can harm the ecosystem in the forest. Okay, that's one way. Number two is to control illegal logging. Illegal logging is cutting down trees without license. Because if you really want to cut, of course, logging is allowed, but you have to apply a license to cut down the trees. Because it's not easy for the forest to grow all these trees. It takes hundreds of years to get that merbau or the cengal or the pokok jati, okay, which is very, very old and it's very, very, actually, it's quite priceless. It's very expensive, the wood. Okay, poaching is illegal hunting of animals. Poaching means you kill the animals without having license. It's called poaching. Okay, so illegal logging is cutting down trees illegally without license, and then poaching is killing animals or hunting without license. Okay, so these are all we have protected laws, all right, related to wildlife. That means there are certain like examples, tigers in the Malayan forest here, you cannot kill them because if you kill them, the government will go after you. Okay, you can be put on behind bars because they are protected species. Okay, so it's called poaching. Now, next one, you can carry out, what else? There's a B. All right, there's a C here. Then you carry out educational campaigns. So in your capacity as a student, you can also encourage, you can have maybe your club, Leo or Interact Club, whatever, you can have campaigns, okay, or Persatuan Pencinta Alam, okay, or this wildlife society, whatever you are in, or Sahabat Alam Malaysia, you can have campaigns to spread the awareness to make sure that people do not harm the forest and the ecosystem. Okay, so this is what we do lah when you talk about preservation. So before it goes bad, you do things to it so that it doesn't go back. The natural condition. Okay, this is called pemeliharaan, preserving. So preservation, why is it necessary? Why is it important? The importance of preserving. So you preserve the biodiversity. Biodiversity means the many different species that we have in our forests and in our jungles and all that. If you harm the forest, you find animals will die, and then your biodiversity will reduce. You have less species available. Okay, so Malaysia has a rich biodiversity. There are many plants, many different species of plants and animals. There's also to prevent extinction of species. Okay, it goes without saying. If you cut down the trees, the birds will die. When the birds die, they cannot reproduce. Of course, you get these birds already become extinct. Example would be the dodo bird. There's a bird called dodo bird, which became extinct a few hundred years ago. Okay, because of human activity. Okay, so and to make sure that ecosystem can still flourish, that means they can still develop, they can still reproduce with rich resources of plant. You always have this, you can still get it because you don't overuse it. Okay, then you will have this problem of extinction. Then provide a natural environment for people to enjoy the natural beauty. So you want all this so that people can enjoy. And sometimes when people are stressed, they want to go into the forest, they want to feast themselves, okay, with this, they want to surround themselves with all this natural, the air in the forest is always fresher, and the greenery is very refreshing to the eye. Okay, so a lot of people going for bird watching. Now, bird watching is a healthy activity. You just go in armed with a binocular, a pair of binoculars. You're not supposed to go in and touch the bird. You just watch the bird. All right, they are up on the trees or in the trees, and you just look at them with your binoculars. You don't even touch them. You don't even catch them. Don't do anything to them. You just watch them, and you want to document. Okay, this is what bird. You want to learn the different types of birds there are in our country, in our forest. Canoeing, all right, canoeing, like kayaking, hiking, all this is very healthy exercise. Okay, so this is the importance of preserving ecosystem. So I hope you are clear on what is preservation. Preservation means you want to make sure that it doesn't go back. You want to make sure it remains as it is. Okay, now secondly, what is conservation? So conservation, your textbook, it says is restoring and all that, and restoring, reverting, it going back. That means you want to repair and you want to replace. Now, actually, this is not so correct, okay? What I found on the internet is this is a better understanding of conservation. Conservation means you want to reduce the usage of the natural resources. When you want to conserve means you can still use it. You can still use the ecosystem. You can still get, you want to make use of it. That means you want to get your supply from the forest. You can still use it, but you cannot use it too much. You want to reduce the usage of natural resources. You still want to protect it. You can use it, but you make sure you do not use it too much until it becomes deteriorated. So it's to reduce the usage of natural resources, to use the natural resources more efficiently, right? And especially, of course, the non-renewable resources lah, okay, which is like your minerals and so on. So that's called conservation. So conservation means you can still use it, but you want to make sure that it does not become harmed by your excessive using. So it's not so much restoring, because restoring, it comes on the third one. That's called restoration. Okay, now let's look at conservation. So conservation, we look at the two types of conservation. There are two types, is in situ and ex situ. Now these are Latin words. What do you mean by in situ? In situ means on site. Okay, that means the thing is there in the natural environment and you're working with it at that place. Okay, in situ means, in situ in conservation means retaining of the existing species in their natural habitat or environment. So that means when you're doing the conservation in situ, you are working in the place itself. You don't take out the animals and bring it somewhere else to help them recover. You have to work in the place itself, in the natural environment. Okay, so you make sure your national park is protected. You do not allow people to poach, to kill animals there. You do not allow people to go in and cut down trees and so on. So you maintain your national parks. You have your national reserves, your marine parks. Okay, so the establishment of all these reserves will help to conserve the flora and fauna in its natural environment. So we call it in situ. So the place is there. You don't take out the animals and bring somewhere else and you want to look after them. No, that is not in situ. In situ means you leave the animals there, you look after them there, and make sure no harm comes to them. Okay, that's called in situ conservation. Then you have ex situ. What is ex situ? Ex situ means external, it's outside. Okay, you take out the animals, you bring them somewhere where you can rehabilitate, you can look after them better. Okay, now ex situ conservation maintains the species outside their natural habitat. Now, what does it mean by that? For example, you know that this group of gorillas gorillas in Africa we don't say gorilla, we say orangutan. Let's say in Borneo forest, in Sabah, Sarawak, we have this orangutan, and it's actually a protected species. Okay, so you know that this orangutan group of orangutan in this forest, they are starving. Let's say, for example, you know why they're starving? Maybe they cannot find food. Okay, or maybe the parents have died. Okay, the parents have died. You know this group of orangutan. So what you do is, how are you going to look after them? So one of the things that we're actually doing now in Sepilok, in Sabah, they're actually bringing all these orphan orangutan, and they put them in a conservation center. Okay, a conservation center is a special place that is built just to look after these animals. So there'll be human, there'll be veterinarians, there are doctors there, right? And then there are a lot of people there who are just looking after these animals 24 hours a day to make sure they are able to, they make sure they grow up healthily, they give them food and teach them. More importantly, they teach them how to look for food, because they're not going to stay in the conservation forever. After this baby orangutan are rehabilitated, means they teach them how to live as a adult orangutan, they are going to release them back into the forest. So that's the thing. It's not like a zoo. A conservation center is not like a zoo, where a zoo, you bring the animal there and then you keep them under in cages, right? You keep them locked up in the cages until maybe the day they die, all right? You are not going to release them. If it's a zoo, you don't release them. So if it's ex situ, it could be a zoo. You bring out the animal, bring them out from the forest, and then you bring them into your zoo, you feed them, you play with them, all right, and then they maybe you, of course, people come in to look at the animals, and they literally, that is the end of their life, they die there, all right. You're not, because you're not releasing them into the forest. That is a zoo. That's the difference. Botanical gardens and botanical parks are also the same thing, right? They are brought there to live. For example, in Penang, the botanical gardens, you have monkeys there, right? You have monkeys there. So they are there. This is their natural environment. And they also, we are not releasing them back into their natural surrounding. This becomes a natural surrounding. The botanical park is the natural surrounding. So they have lost their natural habitats. They have brought them into the zoo. They are protected. They are cared for, but they are bred in captivity. That means you cage them up. Okay, you increase their numbers. But for zoo, you don't bring it back into the forest. But for conservation center, it's different. For conservation center, Elephant Conservation Center in Kuala Ganda, so it's an elephant sanctuary where you rehabilitate elephants that do not know how to find food, they do not know how to live. So you teach them, and then later on, you're going to bring them back into the environment. Okay, so you have this important, this one is quite famous, Sepilok Orang Utan Conservation Center, Rehabilitation Center in Sabah. So you have a group of people there. A lot of them are vets and also caretakers, these zookeepers, all these people who are trained in this field to look after animals, and they actually teach them how to look for food. Because animals that are in captivity for so long, actually they do not know how to hunt anymore. They have lost their natural instinct to hunt. Okay, when you because naturally when animals are born, they have a natural instinct. Okay, maybe they are born inborn, then they know how to hunt. But because you have taken it out from the environment, they don't need to hunt. Every day in the zoo, right, you feed them. All right, the time for feeding is fixed, so they have lost their ability to hunt. So you have to teach them. If you want to bring them back into the forest, you got to teach them how to learn how to get their food. Okay, so this is what they do at the Sepilok Rehabilitation Center. Okay, so you have these conservation centers. Okay, so this is what I mean by conservation. You want to, you keep on, maybe your conservation is like you keep on can use the resources there, but you make sure you do not overuse them, and you want to make sure that they will not be what they call damaged. Okay, they do not become worse. Now the third one is called restoration. Now, restoration is a bit more extreme already. When your environment is not taken care of, when it's not used properly, it becomes destroyed. Example, this is of course, the worst case scenario lah. When ecosystem that already become degraded, already damaged, already ruined, already damaged or destroyed. Okay, it's already, you find that the lake is already no more animals inside there, no more fish, no more whatever, or it become eutrophication has already settled in. You find that it's a dead lake here, all right? Or you find the forest already, a lot of animals have died and also all destroyed. So you have to now restore it. So restore it means you cannot make use of the resources there. Your primary focus is how to make it better now. So conservation and restoration slightly different. Conservation, you can still make use of it, okay? But you make use in a sense that you do not overuse it. You can still get the resources from there. But restoration, you don't use it anymore because you cannot. It's already damaged, it's already destroyed. So your efforts are concentrated on restoring it. You want to make it better, okay? You want to, like, you're a doctor now. You want to make sure your this forest goes back to normal. It takes a long time, of course. Okay. Now let's say many of the world's ecosystems, such as forests, mangroves, have undergone significant degradation. Degradation means become worse. Okay. So what can you do? There are two steps for your restoration process. Restoration steps, there are two. Number one is called reforestation. Now be careful, it's not deforestation. Look at the word here. Reforestation with a capital, with an R. So there's a very big difference between reforestation and deforestation. Okay, let me write down this. If it's deforestation, you are used to looking at this word, isn't it? Deforestation means you are cutting down trees, because the word is like undo. It is to cut down, it is to remove it. It's called de. All right, it's a meaning it's what a prefix. It deforest is to make sure it is like you want to cut the forest or you want to do away the forest. But re is the opposite meaning. You want to make it back into a forest. And how do you do that? You plant trees. So reforestation is the opposite meaning. You plant trees. Replanting. You replace the trees by replanting. Okay, replace the plants that have been cut down through deforestation. Okay, yeah. So reforestation is programs to programs which are targeted at planting trees. Okay, you have Project Restorasi, Tebus Guna. You also land and so on, and pemulihan kawasan hutan terosot di Peninsular Malaysia. So these are the programs of restoration. Another one is the planting of cover crops. So cover crops are those crops which have extensive root system. So they grip onto the soil so that when the rain comes, your soil will not be depleted. It will not run off. Because if you do not have crops, we call it cover crops, planted onto the soil, onto the ground, you find that the soil will be washed away, okay, when there's rain and then when there is soil erosion. So soil erosion happens when you don't have enough cover crops. So you want to reduce nutrient losses, right? You want to maintain the fertility of soil, so you plant all these cover crops. So restoration is mostly planting. You need to make sure that you have to return it back to normal. You got to increase the number of plants. Okay, so you have these three concepts. I hope you are clear on these three concepts. So let me repeat now. Okay, so you have preservation is like you have an environment, all right? You do not want it to go bad. You want to make sure it stays like it is. So your efforts are in maintaining the natural condition. You want to protect it. It's called pemeliharaan. Conservation in BM is called pemuliharaan, from the word pule. So it's a mix between a pule and pelihara. So you have this word pemuliharaan. Pemuliharaan is you can keep on using it, but you want to make sure you do not overuse it, and you want to make sure it doesn't become worse. Okay, so your efforts are in controlling the usage, or reducing the usage of these resources. For restoration, your efforts are concentrated on making it become back to normal. The condition must go back to original. So these are the efforts. Okay, so in BM we call pemuliharaan, from the word pule. Pule means go back to normal. Okay, pule like sembuh lah, becomes better, right? Goes back to normal. So these are the three terms. So make sure you know which one is which. Okay, let me go on to the next part. What are the practices? Okay, so this is your textbook. Practices that contribute towards environmental sustainability. So now we understand we need to maintain this environmental sustainability. But how? What are the good practices? Okay, amalan baik. What should we be doing now? What should we do so that we do our ecosystem is preserved, conserved, okay, so it doesn't go back. So these are 7 here. You can see here are 7 groups, yeah, 7 items here. First of all, your transportation. You have to make use of environmentally friendly transportation. Okay, so we go into details later on. Like carpooling law, you use mass transport law. Do not one person drive one car law, then you're going to have a lot of exhaust fumes. Number 2, energy saving, using LED lamps instead of the usual the common lamps, using energy saving, okay, energy saving lamps, and switching off the switches when you're not in use, reducing the use of electricity and so on. And of course also alternative energy resources. Okay, do not use all this diesel and petroleum and so on. Okay, the 5R concept. We used to have 3R last time, so it has increased to 4R, and now you have 5 Rs, which is rethink, repair, reuse, reduce, recycle. Last time we used to be recycle, reuse, reduce. Okay, so now we have even more, rethink and repair. Then next one, alternative energy, renewable energy, use solar, use wind, use tide, geothermal, biomass, okay, which is cleaner, does not pollute the environment. Okay, next, management of domestic and toxic waste. So you have to know what is the safe way of handling all this domestic waste. Domestic waste are the waste that come from your houses. These are called domestic. Domestic means isi rumah, is from the house. So all this toilet water is domestic waste. Okay, all the sewage, the water from the toilet, the water from your kitchen when you wash your plates and all that, where does it run into? It goes underground, isn't it? It goes into a system, and then you have this indoor water doing all the job of cleaning it and also treating the water. So you have all this doing it in the proper way lah, and also toxic waste. Toxic waste comes usually from the kilang, from the factories. Domestic waste from houses. Okay. Upcycling, later I'll explain what's the mean upcycling. Upcycling, I mentioned in my previous lesson. Upcycling is actually repurposing. How to use something that is already, you take something that's already damaged, you cannot use it for that purpose, you take it and use it for another purpose. That means you transform it. Okay, you change it into something else. For example, you have a tablecloth that all got holes on, all right? You cannot really use it as a tablecloth. So what you do, you cut it up. You cut your tablecloth into smaller pieces. Maybe you can use it as a, what we call rag here to wipe things on. You wipe your table and so on. So you use it in a different way. Okay, like for my case, I had last time my children was the babies and all that. We had a lot of these diapers made of cloth diapers. We don't use all this not so much lah. These pampers and so on. We use cloth diapers, the linen. So when they grew up already, what we do is we use that, we cut it up and we use it as cloth to wipe tables and wipe chairs and all that. Okay, so you repurpose it. You use it in a different way. You transform it in a different way to use it for other things, repurposing. Okay, and biological control, this is what you've learned last time also. You using the natural enemy to control the pests. The pests are these animals that will eat your plants, eat your crops. So you use the natural enemy. You don't use chemicals, because chemicals will bring another problem. Okay, it will be toxic later on. And another is water saving. Okay, you reuse collect the rainwater. You use it to wash your cars, water your garden. You can even use for cleaning your kitchen, cleaning your toilet and so on. Okay, so now let's look at practices in environmental stability. So you have 7 here. Use of renewable energy. All right, this one you can, it's same as your textbook here. Same use of renewable energy. Eco-friendly transport, biological control, domestic and toxic waste management, efficient use of energy and conservation, waste reduction, recycling, efficient use of water. Okay, 7 fields here. So let's look at one by one, right? So using environmentally friendly transport. What is known by environmentally friendly transport? So things that do not pollute the environment. So anything that produces exhaust. So you should not be using petrol. You should not be using diesel. Nothing of these petrochemical substances, because when you want to produce energy from there, you have to burn it. It involves combustion. So you have to use something like what? Bicycle. Bicycle, there's no pollution. You just use your manpower, isn't it, to cycle. Then hybrid. Hybrid cars are those cars that will use electricity also, not just purely petrol. So hybrid is a cross between using petrol. Of course, you do use petrol, but less lah, right? And also electricity. So hybrid cars are more expensive. Electricity, okay? Electricity, they are more expensive. Of course, in the short run, of course, you have to pay at one go, more expensive. But in the long run, actually, you are saving the earth. You're also saving your petrol bills, because when the car is at a stop or certain speed, it will actually convert the engine. Uses the electricity to run it. It doesn't use your petrol. That means there's no combustion. Okay. So, and also electric vehicles. All right. In China, they're not allowed to use motorbike using petrol. They all have electric bikes. Okay, it's a government thing. And everyone is supposed to use electric bikes. So because the air quality in the cities like Beijing and Shanghai is actually very bad. Okay, because of pollution. So many years of all this, because of the human population as well. More humans, more waste, more combustion, and more pollution. Okay, so electric, all these are very, very healthy because you do not involve combustion. There is no pollution, or less pollution. Next thing, practice carpooling. All right, make sure that you try to get everyone together and share one car. Of course, this only works if you're going to the same destination. If you have people going to different places, then it's not so quite practical. Okay, public transport, okay, try to use all this public transport like the monorail, the LRT, and the MRT, and so on. In, of course, cities you have that. In our city we don't have that yet. All right, so you can't have, but you can use buses. You can use buses and all these trains. Of course, okay, you have trains. Okay, that's one. Energy saving. Now, what are the energy saving practices? You use LED lamps. Okay, sorry, it just disappeared. LED lamps. What are LED lamps? The LED lamps do not rely on what you call heating up of this filament to produce light. So the technology is a bit different. Okay, LED, light emitting diodes. Okay, LED, light emitting diodes. So they last longer. They last many times longer. That means it may be a bit more expensive compared to your filament bulb. It may be more expensive when you buy it the first time, but it will save you in the long run because it doesn't spoil easily. The number of hours, let's say it can light up for, let's say, 200,000 hours. One bulb, it can last you 200,000 hours. Okay, now the lifespan of a bulb, we call it in terms of hours. That means you can light it up for how many hours? If a normal light bulb, maybe it only lasts for 50,000 hours. After that, it burns out because the filament doesn't last long. Okay, the filament burns out, it already broken. You have to throw away the bulb, you gotta get a new one. Okay, so LED lights are more efficient, produce more light, less heat. LED lamps, the normal filament lamps, they produce a lot of heat and less light. So most of the electricity that's applied to your bulb, okay, it becomes heat instead of light. But for bulb, we want light. We don't want the heat. Okay, if you want the heat, you buy a radiator. If you want buy a bulb, it's because we want the light. So for LED, more percentage of the electricity that we supply actually becomes light. Okay, let me give you something to give you an illustration. Let's say this is a normal filament bulb. The old technology. The old technology is a filament. We use tungsten. So the electricity we supply to it, electricity goes into the tungsten wire. It becomes heated up. It becomes very hot, so it lights up. So it becomes red. So you can see that it will light up. Okay, but the problem is about 10% of the energy that you supply becomes light. About 10% only. What happens to the other 90%? Let's say you give 100% of joule of the energy from the electricity. About 10% becomes light. That means the other remaining 90% would have actually become heat. So that's one of the reasons why a normal filament bulb is so hot. It is very low energy efficiency. Most of it becomes heat, which is not what you want. You only get 10% of it, of the electricity converted into light. You get very little light, a lot of heat. But if it's an LED lamp, okay, let's look at an LED lamp. All right, LED lamp. Okay, LED lamp. Now this is a different technology. So if you give 100 joule to it, all right, probably you will have at least about 70% of it converted into light. Okay, out of the 100 joule, 70 joule will be converted, means 70 joule will be converted into light, and another perhaps 30% of it becomes heat, which is good because you have more than half. Is about, this is good. This is what you want. Light is what you want. You don't want heat, right? For bulb, what you want is your light. So it's more energy efficiency, more energy efficient because more of it is converted into light. Okay, all right. Now next, okay. Wait, one more thing. Wait, I think I forgot to put my banner. I think it was supposed to banner. Wait, let me just check. Sorry, I just wanted to show this. I've always done this. I never show this. Actually, I've forgotten to put this on. So this is to show what lesson I'm having. Okay. Okay, I always forgot to put that on. Okay, so next one. Now, turning off lights. Yes, that will be saving electricity. Turning off lights when you do not need to use it. Okay. And next one, washing only full loads of laundry. Your washing machine. Your washing machine, you do not switch on your washing machine when you only have half load or only have a few pieces of clothing. Because what happens, if you only have a few pieces of clothing, you use the same amount of electricity to start your washing. You run the whole program. You use water, all right? but the electricity you don't save. Because you use the same amount of electricity to run the whole program. But if you collect all your clothes until it becomes full, then only you start your washing machine. You use the same amount of electricity to run the one program, right? To run the whole cycle. Then you do not need to wash so many rounds because your load is full. So always wait until your laundry is full before you switch it on. Don't just wash 1 or 2 pieces of clothing. Same thing as ironing. When you iron, all right, do not iron just 1 or 2 pieces of clothing, because you switch on your iron, it takes time, it needs electricity to heat up your iron, and then you just use it to iron 1 or 2 pieces. Then you switch it off, right? And then the next day you switch on again. So it's always better for you to collect all your clothing, maybe 1 whole week, and then you iron it at one go. You actually save compared to one everyday switching on your electricity, your iron. So it's how you use electricity to save energy. Okay, next one. 5 concepts, 5R. Rethink about whether you need to use that or not. For example, plastic bag. Okay, do you really need for them to give you the plastic bag when you want to buy something? Or is that item so small you can just put in your pocket? Why do you want them to give you a plastic bag? Okay, think about what to do with the waste. You imagine you only use the plastic bag just to bring the thing back to your house. And what happens after that? You throw it away. You barely use it for 1 day. Okay, so you throw away the plastic bag, and then it's going to be rubbish for the earth. Okay, so we think first. Sometimes when you go there and buy something, it's better you bring your own bag, because your bag is reusable. But usually a lot of people do not bother to reuse the plastic bag. Okay, so say no to products that are harmful to the environment. So some people do not want to buy it. So the people are very environmentally conscious. They don't buy things with a lot of packaging. So you have layers and layers of plastic and paper all wrapped up when the inside is just what you want. But just one layer will do. Why you have so many layers of plastic wrapping individually wrapped food, which is actually very bad, because you have, like, biscuits. Instead of having the whole pack into one plastic, you have inside again a small pack consisting of maybe 3 or 4 pieces of biscuit. Individually packed, you make use of a lot of packaging. So try to buy food or biscuits that do not come in individual packs. Okay, repair. Resources that are repairable, try to repair them rather than you throw them away. You throw them away, you contribute to the garbage, to the earth. Okay, you can use it. Actually, you just sometimes a lot of people are too lazy to repair it, or maybe too costly to repair it. Okay, that's one thing lah. But sometimes most of the time it's actually too lazy to repair. They're too lazy to find someone to repair the thing. Maybe they can't do it themselves, or they're too lazy to do it. So they throw it away and buy new things, and that ends up in the dustbin. And that is your garbage. Okay, that is your landfill. Now reuse, use the same thing again. Try to reuse the plastic bottles, glass bottles, wash them out, clean them, and of course plastic bags, polythene bags. These are the plastic bags that we use. Reduce, so try to reduce it. How to reduce it? That means try not to use things that cannot be recycled. Okay, try to use things that can be recycled. So don't use things that are plastic and polystyrene, because they usually take a long time to decompose. Okay, and next one, recycle. Try to recycle the thing, use it, reprocess it into something new. Okay, make new products. It's called recycling. So here is upcycling. This one I want to tell you about the upcycling. It is called repurposing. Using it in a different way. You call it repurposing. For example, like I mentioned just now, you have a sweater that you love your sweater so much. Then suddenly one day you find there's a hole in your sweater. So you can't possibly wear it because it looks awful. There's a hole there. So what you do is maybe you can cut up parts of it. You can cut away the sleeve. Okay, you make it into something else, or you can reduce the size of it, or you can sort of like make it into smaller size. You can let your a younger person wear it. So you make it into a different thing, okay, into a new material, into a new substance. So you're actually repurposing into a new item. Okay, another thing is using cooking oil. How is your project coming along, students? Okay, girls, I'm giving you this. This is one of the ideas you can use. You can use what? Cooking oil. You can use it to make what? To make soap. Okay, I'm sure you know, you learn in chemistry as well, right? You can make into soap. This is one way of repurposing your cooking oil to making detergents and soaps. There's also repurposing, all right? There's also recycling it. kitchen waste. Oil is kitchen waste. Okay. Fossil fuel, right? Using of alternative renewable energy, right? Fossil fuel is non-renewable, so no good. Always go for all these sun, wind, waves, water, geothermal, biomass. They are renewable. It is inexhaustible. That means it cannot finish. There's no such thing as called finishing because they are always renewable. It's always there, and it does not pollute the environment. Okay. Solar cars, electric cars, they do not run on petrol. They doesn't involve any combustion. Solar panel, they generate electricity, so they help to save your electricity bills. Okay, so these are the concepts. One more, sorry. Then domestic and a few more. Sorry, domestic and toxic waste management. So you have Inda Water. It's a privatized company which deals with the sewage, the all this water that is you get from the domestic waste. They actually have to treat the water so they are not poisonous, and then they dispose of it. So treatment plants is where decomposition happens by bacteria. So make use of bacteria to convert the organic waste into biogas. So all these things that from the toilet, you have your feces and all that, it can be converted into biogas like methane. It can be a source of fuel. You can use it to burn it. And also microorganisms can also break down toxic waste into non-toxic substances. So you have sewage treatment plants. Okay, so one of the things that you can use is the methane, and also another thing is can be used to make fertilizers or the feces. All these are organic. Okay, biological control using natural enemies. Okay, does not pollute the environment, but pesticides, they do pollute because they are chemicals. Pesticides are chemicals. Okay, so they reduce the usage of agrochemicals. So water saving, right? Collecting rainwater to flush the toilet, turn off the tap when brushing teeth, right? Don't just have the tap going on and then keep on brushing. The water is all wasted away. And try not to wash your car using hose. Use a bucket instead. Okay, because what's a dual flush toilet? Now, some of these toilet, the cistern tank, the tank here. I'm sure some of your toilets here, the tank where you pump, isn't it? This is the pump, that one. You have two buttons here, isn't it? One is a bigger one and one's a smaller one. So when number one business, you press this one, less water will come out, okay, to wash your whatever. Then number two, you have a number two business, right? Bigger business, right? You know what's a number one, number two, right? Number one is buang air kecil. Okay. Number two is buang air besar, right? So number two, if it's the number two, you press this button, there'll be more water. So it's called a dual flush toilet. Okay. So depends on your usage lah. If you only have one button, that means whether it's it's a number one or number two, you will have the same amount of water being used up. So this one you have a choice when you have a dual flush toilet. Okay, lastly, let's talk about food. Okay, food. Now, last one, status and food security in Malaysia. All right. So food security is defined as having a guarantee on the availability of food. So you have human population exploding, right? Explosion of that. So you need to make sure there's enough food for everybody. So there's availability of food. Okay. When you say have food security, means you are confident that you have food to supply to everybody. Okay. There will be sufficient access to food. Okay. So here in Malaysia, we do have excess food. I mean, we do have available food. So one thing good about Malaysia is we have a lot of land. Okay, we have a lot of land for planting, where it's agriculture. Okay, unlike like Singapore, 90% of the food in Singapore is actually imported. Okay, the problem with Singapore is even though it's such a developed country and all that, it's good governance and so on. It's just that they don't have enough land, so they have to end up we spend a lot of money importing food. Okay, but for Malaysia, and they of course they do buy a lot of food from us, because we're the neighbors, and we should be very grateful that we do have a lot of land. Okay, so we do have food. Okay, so we have adequate supply of poultry. Poultry means chicken. There's poultry, right? Livestock is like cow and goats and all this animals, ternakan, and fish. So, but we still have to import other foods, foods that we cannot grow in Malaysia, like apples, oranges. We do have to import. Grapes also we don't have. We have to import. But local foods, no problem. Okay, we do have enough soil or land to plant them. Okay, so the four components of food security include here availability. Availability means whether food is available or not. Is there enough or not? Is there enough sufficient quantities? Okay, whether the country is able to plant or to grow enough food for you all or not. Okay, that means sufficient quantities. Food accessibility means whether the food is able to be delivered to you. Transportation, whether it can be delivered to the supermarket, the Tesco's, or called Lotus now. Okay, it can deliver to Aeon, where you can buy them, or to the grocery shop where you can buy them. Accessibility. Okay, utilization is whether you are able to go and get it for yourself or not, whether you're able to go and buy it for yourself. Okay, the utilizing, how are you utilizing it? Are you actually buying it and you eating it or not? Okay, and food stability, to make sure that it is not a one-off thing, it is continuous, it's like a whole year through. So that's called stable. It's not like now you get it but next month maybe no supply. Okay, that's not stable. If stable means you are make sure that you are sure that it can carry on for a long time. That's called stable. So here we have some certificates, right? You can find all these labels on food and packaging on the label of foods, on the packaging. When you see all this, you are certified. I mean, you are quite safe to you are assured that this one has undergone some stringent testing, so it gives you a confidence to buy the food. For example, if you're Muslim, all right, we will look at this halal logo. If it's halal, that means all the aspect of production of the food follows the Islamic law. Okay, in terms of, let's say, for example, chicken normally, if it's not halal, it maybe, of course, why is it chicken is halal? Chicken is not beef, it's not pork, it's by right should be halal, but actually no. For Islam, they have to actually slaughter the chicken in a certain way. Okay, so that is considered halal. So even if, let's say, we are not we are cooking chicken and all that, we can't offer to the Malays to eat them, to let them eat, because it's not halal chicken. When we slaughter the chicken, it has to be done in the proper way, according to the Islamic law. Then it's considered halal. Okay, so halal means in all aspects, beginning from the farming and also the final food product and also the processing, it must comply with the Islamic law. Okay, so you have also other, this one, GMP and HACCP. They also emphasize on the quality of the food. So if you see all this logo, you can be assured that they have gone through certain testing and all that. They are hygienic, they are healthy, and they are safe. You can buy them. Okay. Now, how to steps to increase food security? So what can we do to make sure that we always have good quality food? So first of all, you have to conduct research and development. Now, what's called research and development? R&D. So you will see this thing, R&D. When people say R&D, it means research and development. Every factory, every company that produces food will always have research and development, R&D department. Even pharmacies and all that. What do? What does our research and development do? They always do experiments. They try to improve on their products. For example, all right, your instant noodles, Maggi, your Mami, your Chintan noodle and all that, they have their own research and development. So sometimes you will find they have a new flavor, okay, a new packaging, a new product. Why do they come up with new product? Because they want to diversify. People might be complaining, always the same flavor, always the ayam, always the curry and so on, always the laksa. Is it no new flavor, meh? Okay, so the research and development, they do experiments, they come up with new products. Okay, so to satisfy the consumers cita rasa, their needs, to satisfy our needs. Because sometimes people want different food, right? We cannot be eating the same thing all over again and again. We get tired of it. Okay, promoting local products. Okay, they want to promote, tell people they have a new product. Okay, they want to promote, okay, buy Malaysian fruits. Why go and buy fruit that's so expensive overseas that you import? Okay, Malaysian foods maybe are just as good. They have nutrients and so on. Increasing food production. So find ways of how to make the food or the plant grow faster and become grow fruit faster and get more sweeter products and whatever, makes the quality better. So increasing the food production, making grow faster, and they will flower and they will actually produce their fruit, okay, faster. So this is what we have, this research and development, all that. Okay, so here we have already covered. This is the food security. Okay, so we are lucky actually. What we have is land. Okay, we have land and we do have the technology. So unlike small countries which don't have enough land, Okay, so we've already covered 10.2 and 10.3. So we already finished with chapter 10. The next one will be green technology. We have already done the other day. Okay, so we're done with chapter 10. So next lesson, we will carry on. We'll go into chapter 11, which is very interesting. It's all on genetics. Okay, so any questions, you can ask me, okay, in a Telegram, or you can wait for your lesson on next week, and I will see you in class. Okay, for those outside there, for the students here. Okay, so do share my videos, and if you have any questions, I do welcome you to ask me questions. All right, so hope to see you another lesson. All right, so I will say bye bye now and have a good weekend. Okay, bye bye.